In today's video, we're going to go through a quick task list and then call a meeting to see if American Express is being sus. There's going to be a chapters tool down below if you need to skip to the next part, but big favor as always is to give this a thumbs up. If you like stuff like this, consider subscribing. So let's start off with the Apple Card, which has an increased intro bonus where you're going to get $50 back for spending $50 or more at ExxonMobil using Apple Pay. This does need to be within the first 30 days of getting the card, so it is only for new applicants rather than people who already have the card. If you're someone who doesn't benefit from this, I would probably just wait for an offer that does make sense for you, just because that intro bonus does play a pretty big role. In the past, we have seen some similar offers through Walgreens, Panera, as well as directly through Apple. And even then, that's not the historic high offer, which goes to Nike at $75. So one question I get quite a bit is, well, why would I wait for one of these intro bonuses when I can just apply for the card and get 3% back right now? I think that makes sense if you're someone who is a very big spender or for someone who doesn't really want to wait at all. But for most people, especially people who have lower spend, that intro bonus plays such a big role. We can actually solve for this pretty quickly. So you look at the intro bonus of $50 divided by 3%, and that means that you need to spend $1,667 just to get $50 back in value. So if you spend more than that amount, then great, then go get the card right now, even if you can't use this benefit. But otherwise, for most people, I would just recommend waiting because $50 back for $50 is a pretty good deal. And this assumes that there's no opportunity cost, that you don't have any other cards. If you even had a 1% back card, that means you would need to spend $2,500 or more just to get that $50 back in value. If you have a 2% card, that's the opportunity cost, and you would need to spend $5,000 just to get a $50 increase in value. Next, we have Southwest having a sale on their points where you're going to get a 70% bonus. This is going to be until January 27th of 2021. It sounds pretty good on the surface, but when you run the numbers, it doesn't really make sense. So for example, if you buy 15,000 points, you get a 70% bonus, and that's going to be $550. 20,000 plus 14,000 is 34,000 in total, and you're paying about 1.62 cents per point for each of them. The value that I typically use for Southwest points is 1.5 to keep it simple, but if you wanted to prove this, you could actually look at the retail price of a flight and then look at how many points it would cost. So a quick example of a $164 flight, when you run the numbers, you're getting 1.46 cents per point. So a lot of numbers, but the easiest way to put it is, would you spend $164 in cash for $146 in points? You can see why it doesn't really make sense to me in this situation. Last one is if you're someone who has Hertz status, you can share this with someone else for a year. So I have 5-star, which I'm not even sure where I got this at this point, but if you have that or President's Circle, then you can share this with someone else, but you do need to do this by January 20th. Speaking of January goals, this video is sponsored by Wealthfront. One of the big benefits of Wealthfront is that it's a robo-advisor and everything's automated. This means that you don't need to focus on picking stocks and you can focus on your daily life. You'd be surprised how many people out there want to start investing, but they get stuck on that first step. Even if you are a bit more advanced, they do have some other features, such as automatic tax loss harvesting. This could help you strategically defer your taxes until a future year. Maybe you're founding a company in the future, or maybe you're moving to a different state that has different taxes. There's definitely a ton of people I know moving to Texas as well as Florida. Wealthfront does charge 0.25% in annual fees, but for most people starting out or people who have other focuses in life, I think that's well worth it. Wealthfront's also offering to manage your first $5,000 with them for free for life. If that sounds interesting, our link will be up below or also down below in the description box. I only work with brands that I'm comfortable recommending to my friends, so thank you so much Wealthfront for sponsoring today's video. Emergency meeting. American Express is being investigated for their business sales practices. With this type of stuff, there's always 2 levels to it. So was this something sent out by management or was this by rogue employees? And ironically, the rogue employee one might not really even be them. It might be that they just have a lot of pressure and they're being told that certain things are okay. If this sounds familiar, it's something that was actually reported back in March 2020 and is now finally being investigated. Let's read through some of the tactics because it is pretty sus. Salespeople sometimes told hesitant business owners that they would send them informational welcome kits in the mail. Okay, that sounds pretty normal, right? That doesn't sound that weird at all. Instead, they use the social security numbers and addresses from the customer database to submit applications on the business owner's behalf. That doesn't really sound appropriate at all, but okay. The welcome kits were simply the cards and their associated paperwork. I'm honestly surprised that some of these sales associates had the balls to do that because that's pretty crazy. Hey, do you want to try out our pens? I'll send you a sample, and the sample ends up being 10,000 pens that you bought for your business. Maybe that's just me and I get that they're under a lot of pressure, but that just sounds so brazen. Some customers were told that their cards were being upgraded when they were given new cards. To me, there's a pretty big difference between something that's a gray area and something that's an obvious lie. Others received more cards than they sought. So the crazy thing about a lot of these business cards is that there's actually a lot of fees if you add a lot of other users. So for example, for the Platinum Business Card, when you add an authorized user, it's pretty expensive. Salespeople skipped over required disclosures and in some cases falsely told customers that their credit would not be checked. Kind of a tangent, but you'd be pretty surprised at how many people end up getting screwed by going in branch and being told something that's not true. Maybe that your credit wouldn't be checked or that certain rules like 524 don't exist. It's actually pretty interesting because there's a lot of game theory here too. So if you're playing one game with one person and you're not playing again, oftentimes game theory says you should screw them over. On the flip side, if you're playing the long game, if you are having that relationship with them, then you should cooperate. Cards also had been issued without customer consent. That would probably be a problem. One of the people said that the salesperson told him that he wouldn't be charged an annual fee if he didn't activate the Amex card. I hear that a lot for some reason, and I don't think that's actually true because once you get approved for the card, it doesn't matter. They don't really care if you activate the card. And ironically, it doesn't make sense to really cancel it at that point because once you have a card, then you're no longer eligible for that bonus anyways. So you might as well just at least hit the intro bonus and then keep it for a year. That way you get the bonus and then you also don't get blacklisted by Amex. That's obviously the points people rabbit hole, but I think it's still relevant. In the fall, an American Express salesman convinced Glenn to take out 6 business cards with an unusually generous offer of 4 rewards points per dollar on certain spending categories for the first $150,000 in spend. Ironically, that's not unusual. That's the standard offer for the Gold Business Card, which has Forex back depending on the category that you pick. He was led to believe that he would pay a single annual fee of $295 for all the cards. The salesperson emailed to ask whether he would make a small purchase with the other cards to test their security chips. So that sounds like a pretty big lie. It sounds like he needed them to activate and use the card in order for it to count towards his bonus. Soon he ended up getting 6 bills for $295. There are a bunch of cases where you would want to have that many cards, but it would only make sense if you have that level of spend. It honestly doesn't sound like that was the case here, and it sounded like he was getting screwed. And American Express fired that salesman. Note that all of this stuff did happen years ago and American Express seemingly fired a lot of people, but it's still interesting to me to see what happens from all of this and whether there's additional standards that come into play. There's definitely going to be variability in the points and how you can redeem them and how much value you can get out of them, but obvious lies that are not true is just very scary to me. My question for you guys is, what are your thoughts on this, and do you think this is something that's going to keep happening in the future? If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. It really helps us out. If you know anyone else who'd benefit, share this with them. It'll probably help them out. But otherwise, hope you guys liked it. See you guys next time.